James, on today's show, we're interviewing a man who is the co-founder of Urban Capital Network. His name is Lenny. And on today's show, we're going to interrogate him to find out whether his investment fund is the kind of fund that you would invest in.
That's right.
That I would invest in. That Andrew would invest in. All this and more on today's edition of The Thrive Time Show on your radio and podcast download. The Thrive Time Show in no way, shape, or form endorses today's guest, nor do we not endorse today's guest. We really have no opinion of today's guest. Our show is kind of like a great big Switzerland show.
Get ready to enter The Thrive Time Show.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom, now we here.
We started from the bottom, now we're on the top. Teaching you the systems to get what we got. Colton Dixon's on the hooks, I break down the books. Z's bringing some wisdom and the good looks. As the father of five, that's why I'm alive. So if you see my wife and kids, please tell them hi. It's the C&Z up on your radio. And now 3, 2, 1, here we go.
We started from the bottom, now we here. We started from the bottom and we'll
Yes, 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 and yes, Thrive Nation. It is a very special occasion because on today's show, we're interviewing the man and the myth, the legend, the guy, the guru behind Urban Capital Network, Lenny. Welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm excited to have you on the show, and I want to ask you, because a lot of people out there are looking you up right now, what is the correct official pronunciation of your last name?
It is Saizan.
Okay.
It is a French last name. So if you think in terms of a French accent, you should be able to figure it out. So Saizan.
Saizan. Okay. Now, for people out there who are wondering what the Urban Capital Network is all about, tell us, when did you first start this organization?
We started Urban Capital Network just about 1 year ago, almost to the month of a year ago. Yes.
A year ago. Now, what we have on today's show, James, you're a frequent co-host of the show. You're also a guy who happens to be an attorney.
That's right.
And so what we're going to do is we're going to do the it's like an interrogation of today's guest here, and we're going to ask him a whole bunch of questions during this conversation. And so, Lenny, at the end of the day, what kind of entrepreneurs out there can you help? For the listeners out there listening to the show today, what kind of people can you help?
Well, first, let me start off by saying the Urban Capital Network, although we do make investments in entrepreneurs, we're primarily focused on investors, actually. So we're helping more investors get access to venture-backed opportunities that they typically would not be able to get access to, or they couldn't possibly maybe afford to meet the investment minimums of most VC funds.
And so, when people are looking to invest with you, is there a certain minimum amount of money they have to put into the investment with you?
Yeah, so we greatly reduce the minimum investment typically required by VC funds. So a VC fund, you might be able to get in at a $250,000 minimum. And you have to be an accredited investor. We still focus on the accredited investor, but we focus on the lower tier accredited investor. So think of a working professional who's earned some money, has some money to invest, but they can't afford a $250,000 check. So our minimum investment to get into our deals is $10,000.
$10,000. Now, I guess, and James, you're an attorney, so you see investment deals that are great, and you've seen, I'm probably come across your desk as an attorney, investment deals that are not so great. From your perspective, James, what kind of things should our listeners be looking for in an investment before they decide to put money into a fund, whether it be the Urban Capital Network or another fund?
The very first thing is to make sure that it's well documented. I can't tell you how many times people have come to me after the fact, typically investors. I just invested $250,000. I just invested $500,000. I just invested whatever amount into this company, and it's been 4 or 5 years. I haven't had any updates, or I've had scattered updates, or whatever it is, and I want to get my money back. And the first question I ask is, well, what do the documents say? And sometimes they're unsigned, sometimes they're fragmented, sometimes they don't exist. And we've been able to recover under those circumstances, but it makes it very difficult and very expensive to do that. So that's the first thing I would look out for is the documentation.
So, Lenny, what kind of peace of mind can you give the listeners out there that are maybe thinking about investing with you?
Well, in addition to access, we're working with a lot of first-time investors. So we realize that, I should say first-time venture investors, a lot of our investment, our investors have invested before, but they haven't invested in the early stage space. And also, because we have a $10,000 minimum, some of our investors might only have $10,000 to invest in an early stage deal. So typically, in early stage deals, angel investing type deals, you need to invest in 10 to 12 companies to kind of, you don't even guarantee, but you improve your success of having a return on your investment. I mean, 9 out of those 10 companies may fail, and one just may be the one that to give you your returns and have a net positive gain, even if all of the other ones fail. So we realize that there needs to be some element of risk investment. You can't eliminate all risk, but we're de-risking the investment by partnering with top quartile VC firms that have a proven track record of successful investments and successful funds. So, and we're partnering with multiple VC firms. So what we're able to do for the investor that's just getting in, we're helping them to diversify their investment immediately. So instead of having to invest $10,000 in 10 different companies, if you only have 10 grand, you can invest in 10 different companies directly through us. It's VC backed, what we consider smart money. So VCs are involved, they're guiding the companies in the right direction and steering them towards profitability and a successful exit, because that is the entire goal and purpose behind a VC investment.
What kind of background can you share with the listeners about yourself? I think a lot of our listeners have invested in something that didn't go well in the past. What kind of look into your background could you share with the listeners out there to maybe build their confidence in what you guys are doing over there at Urban Capital Network?
Sure. So I can talk a little bit about myself, but I also have a team of experienced investors as well. So my path to investment and being in this venture capital space is untraditional. Started my career out as an electrical engineer. So I have a technical background. I worked as an engineer for approximately 10 years or so. And then I started transitioning away from engineering and technology more into project management, which led to financial project management. So I was managing some technology projects in the financial space, and that evolved into financial controls, internal audit, and operational audit in a corporate environment. So I got to experience all of the interdependencies and look at the best practices from an internal audit perspective of some very successful organizations. And during my transition from engineering and technology into this financial space, I got an MBA along the way that focused in finance, and that piqued my interest in mergers and acquisitions. I eventually left corporate America. I took some of my 401k money and I bought a brokerage business franchise. because I still had an interest in mergers and acquisitions. So my time in my business brokerage practice, I was looking at a lot of companies and helping them with their exit planning, understanding profit and loss and all of their financial statements, and I participated in recasting these financial statements to come up with a valuation on the businesses that I was representing. I also worked with buyers who were looking to invest in businesses. So, a lot of these buyers thought they wanted to buy a business, but really they were looking to just be an investor in businesses. My business partners were all involved in angel investing, and my background with business brokerage and some of the buyers that I was representing, I thought it would be a good fit for those buyers who were interested in investing in businesses. We all came together. We brought our networks together, our expertise together, and all of our resources, and we formed the Urban Capital Network after we've all had some experience in angel investing. So I had done some angel investing as well while working as a business broker.
Now, I want to throw this out there, James, for everybody out there listening, because you know how much I care about each and every one of our listeners, and you know that it takes a long time to build up a reputation.
For sure.
And the trust of an audience. So what I feel like I have to do, Lenny, is ask you some of those tough questions that our listeners would want to know. One, I mean, what kind of licensing do you have to do what you do, to be allowed to do what you do?
Actually, there's no license required. We're not selling in any public securities. These are all private placement investments. So there's no licensing requirement. Even in the VC space, you might not find a whole lot of folks that have Series 7 licenses or anything like that. So, that's the short answer.
So no licenses are required. And in all fairness, I mean, Steve Jobs didn't require a license to start Apple. Bill Gates didn't have a license to start Microsoft. So not everybody needs a license to start something. What kind of, if people wanted to research you, if they wanted to talk to references or talk to, we're talking about people's life savings here. Do you have happy clients they can talk to, or what sort of vetting process is there for people thinking about investing with you?
Yeah, so we do a lot of educational webinars, and we have a lot of information on our website about our previous investments as well. And I think what you'll find is our relationships with the VC firms that we're investing alongside of say a lot about what we're doing. So, you took some time and spent some time on our website, looked at the background of myself and our 4 partners, and just, some of the investments we've made thus far. Like I said, we've only been around 1 year. So the verdict is still out on the success of our funds. In this line of business, it takes time for success and failures to manifest. But I feel pretty confident in saying that what we've done so far, that I am very optimistic about the return potential of our portfolio.
What in terms of the venture capital firms that you've teamed up with? What are some of the venture capital firms that you've teamed up with? Just maybe so our listeners could do some research on that.
Yeah, so the one I recommend, and this is the one that helped us catapult our business into the space, is Mercury Fund, located in Houston, Texas.
The Mercury Fund, located in Houston, Texas. And
Yes.
For people out there that are saying, man, I just want to learn more, do you set up a free consultation? Do you, what's the first step if somebody wants to think about investing with you?
Sure, I'd be happy to speak to anyone. A one-on-one consultation or whatever it might be. As I mentioned, we do frequent webinars as well. So like we partnered with an accelerator here called the ION, where we do investor education. We had a series called Angel 101, and all of the replays of those videos are on our website and accessible to anyone.
Okay. And James, you're an attorney.
That's right.
You've represented a lot of clients that have put a lot of money into things before they call you. Andrew, you are a business consultant. You work with a lot of clients who put money into funds. You've heard people say they lost their money. They worked really hard for that money, then they invested it in something. And so it's not out of a distrust for you, Mr. Lenny. It's more of just a question that the listeners would have. I'd like for you guys, we'll begin the interrogation session.
Interrogation round.
So James, are you ready, Lenny, for the interrogation round?
Go ahead, I'm ready.
Okay, James, you go first. Andrew, go second. What question do you have? What's a tough question you have for Lenny here about the Urban Capital Network?
Well, so my question is, how do you select your investments? Are you invited to the table by funds like the Mercury Fund, or do you seek them out yourself? Do people apply? What I'm talking about, I understand your business. You let the smaller investor get involved in larger deals because the barrier to entry is so large. So you've broken down that barrier to entry, and instead of $250 or higher, they can get in for $10,000. I get that. So now, once you get the money, my question relates to, what do you do when you get it? How do you select the investments that you invest in? Do you invest in, I'm looking at, like, I'm picturing in my head, like, a Shark Tank environment where, who asks those questions, and how do you get the people? Do they come and they pitch to you? Do you get invited to deals through Mercury Fund? How do you figure out, and does it span separate industry sectors, or is it focused on one sector, one geographical area? Can you explain how you select your investments?
Sure. So we secure our initial investment with a VC firm in their general LP investor base, right? So we're investing first in their fund as an LP, and we're syndicating an investment vehicle to invest directly in their fund. So we're still meeting the VC investment minimum, but we're putting that together in an SPV, special purpose vehicle, where we're aggregating all of the investments that we receive, and we invest in directly in the LP. Because we're an LP investor, we also are able to get access to follow-on direct investments in the portfolio companies in that fund. So those companies are within the VC firm's portfolio already, and now we're able to come behind our LP investment and invest direct with the portfolio company. So, all of these deals are coming by way of the VC. What we also do, however, we get opportunities to see deals as well, and we look at those deals, and we try to bring the VC diverse deal flow as well. So, if the VC decides that a deal that we bring them is worthy of their investment, it could potentially be in their portfolio as well, but it's a deal that we source and not the VC. But for what we're offering our investors, all of our deals will be VC backed.
Okay. So, Andrew, your question ready. James, do you have a follow-up question to that question?
I do.
Okay, yes, sir.
What are the expected rate? And I know that I get that you're new, and I get you're about a year old this month, and that your wins and losses are not typically gauged in that short of a time frame. What time frame do you expect? What are your expected or anticipated gains, and over what time frame? Because if somebody wants to, I'm sure that people of this caliber are concerned about how long their money is locked up for. Can they redeem it, or can they cash out, or can you tell us about that process?
Sure. The typical VC fund is a 10-year fund. So they're making investments out of that fund over the first 3 to 4, maybe up to 5 years. They're making investments. You might start seeing some exits in year 5 or some returns in year 5, but for the most part, the fund is going to extend to 10 years, if not a couple of years beyond that, like maybe even up to 12 years. Our position with some of the investments that we've made thus far, because most of them are in a Series A, you might get what we would describe as a pre-Series A or post-seed investment in some of these portfolios. But most of them are going to be Series A, and the follow-on investments are going to be either a bridge round to Series B, or it could be Series B or even Series C. We do have some Series C and Series B investments in our portfolio. So what that really means in the grand scheme of things is if you invested with us this year, you might be able to see some returns as early as 3 years. We actually have a couple of companies that we think might exit as soon as sometime next year. So you might get some of your money back as quickly as next year. And now that would be a Series C investment because, that's an indication that the company is further along. They're in a growth stage, and they're maybe a target for an acquisition. So to summarize it, I would say you can kind of expect to see returns anywhere from maybe 3 years, but as late as 10 years or beyond. This type of investment is meant to be a long-term investment. However, the returns are typically much greater than your public stock bond type return. So the returns that we're looking at are anywhere between 3 to 5x is what we're expecting.
Andrew, you get the final tough question you get to ask today's guest because again, if everybody listens to this show, folks, when we have a guest on the show, we try to ask the tough questions that you would want to ask. That way nobody's wasting anybody else's time. You know what I mean? We want to make sure that no one's wasting Lenny's time, and we want to make sure that all of our listeners out there know that we're asking the tough questions. Andrew, what's your final question that you have there, sir?
Yeah, absolutely. So I know there's a lot of different ways to invest your money. So like personally, I have a Roth IRA. I don't log in and check the Roth IRA every single day and, look at it and go, oh, it went up 2 pennies or, oh, it went up how ever much. My goal is to be happily surprised when I'm 60. But how is there a way where you can check it or when you can like look at the progress, look at the reports? Is there how often can you, or what does that look like? Can you like check up on it and see the progress?
Yeah. So the answer to that is in terms of the valuation and the value of the equity that you own. No, it's not like a stock or something like that that's going to change every day. So the way these early stage investments and startup companies determine their value is really based on each stage, each additional incremental investment round, right? So, for instance, we invested in an early stage company. Now, this is a seed round that we did. We invested in the company with a valuation cap of just a little over $4 million. And this was about 18 to 20 months ago, a valuation cap of $4 million. Since then, they've had a Series A and a Series B round. And their Series B round, the valuation was, I want to say like $54 million was the valuation. So in terms of checking and being able to identify if your investment has appreciated, you're looking at the valuation from one round to the next.
Okay, can you share what company that is for the folks out there that want to maybe Google it and dive into it?
Sure. So I'm very excited about this company. They've actually been identified as one of the top 20 cybersecurity companies by Forbes.com. And just recently, they were listed as the fastest growing company in Houston by the Houston Business Journal. And the name of that company is called Lion Guard.
Lion Guard?
Lion Guard, and Guard is spelled Gard.
Okay, Lion Guard. Okay. Well, I appreciate you putting up with us tonight. I just wanted to ask you a lot of questions because I know our folks want to do that. And again, I want to throw out a disclaimer here, folks. Anybody out there, before investing in anything, my recommendation has always been and will always be on this show, talk to your accountant and have somebody vet the source. Make sure that, because all of our listeners work super hard, and whether you're going to invest in Lenny, you're going to invest in a mutual fund, whether you're going to put any investment into the marketplace at all, I encourage you to be, smart about vetting and making sure you bring in a third party. Maybe bring in your attorney, maybe bring in your accountant. I mean, James, would you agree with that? Doesn't that make sense before you invest to bring in an accountant or an attorney to kind of look at the deal, no matter what kind of deal it is?
I would definitely recommend talking to professionals who know what they're doing before kind of doing anything.
And I think what the vast majority of your clients that have called you, James, having lost their money, but they'll tell you, gosh, I wish I would have had professional advice going into this.
Can't tell you how many times I've gotten that comment before. And you can never impress upon people who just don't want to do it, and then they learn, and then they come to me with their tails between their leg, and it's a little bit of counseling and a lot of legwork to bring them back.
Lenny, that's why I appreciate you answering these questions, my friend. And again, your website one more time. What's the website for people that want to look you up?
Yes, it's urbancapitalnetworks.com.
urbancapitalnetworks.com. Lenny, thank you so much for being on today's show, and I hope you have a great rest of your evening, sir.
All right, thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!